It is the 12th of the 11th, 2025. The time is 5 minutes past 10. And as always, that must mean one thing. There are a multitude of F1-centric threads at which we need no must pull. In the first instance, we'll talk about Ferrari again. Chaos Dragon settings. Jenson Button has responded to John Elkann, and it's not very kind. Curt, abrupt potentially, but F1 fans to a man and woman, a punch in the air like Diego Maradona in the World Cup. Toto, the boy who cried wolf. There are more details leaked by one Italian F1 journo, De Kaiser, who's buying them their Mercedes shares. So too, we'll talk about Laurent Mekies. We'll talk about Gabriel Bortoleto. Per the guys and girls over on F1 Reddit, there's been some speculation about potential DRS malfeasance in the first instance. However, should we talk about some power rankings? How, Max, Frank, they didn't give Maximilian Verstappen a 10 makes no sense to me. I don't want to talk about British biased or any real or perceived, but 9.6. I understand you've got to rank the driver over the course of the weekend, and Max's qualifying session was not up to his usual standard, but surely you've got to normalise shortly thereafter for the car being an absolute dog. And Helmut Marko has come out and spoken about that. He said that the sensitivity around the car is far too narrow, trying to get it in its optimal operating window far too difficult. Mention no names. The Mercedes W13, formerly of the parish of 2022. That's what we're dealing with in the RB21. Ergo, a small change, tinker in ride height can throw that car off massively, and that's what happened during qualifying. So surely then F1 journos, you've got to normalise for that. They gave 9.6 on average, the F1 accredited journalists, to one Lando Norris. And I would say that that's about fair, because Lando Norris did everything that he needed to do. He has taken up the challenge. Starts 10 out of 10 all of a sudden. Racecraft 10 out of 10. Operating in pressure, notwithstanding it, 10 out of 10. Puts it on qualifying. Props to Lando Norris. Your boy over here, I've got to take 10 seats. Shut my mouth for once about Lando Norris, aka Dustin from Stranger Things, because he couldn't do any more this race weekend. Although some would say, leave Maximilian Verstappen out on them medium compound tyres, and then we might be having ourselves a different conversation. 9.6 for Maximilian Verstappen. I mean, we'll argue that between now and the time when the cows come home. Like 9.6, I don't know. It feels a bit techie. Antonelli 9, don't hate that. Ollie Behrman 9. Let me show you about this, because the guys and girls over at Reddit are debating potentially this is a Jack Doohan type instance as far as Gabriel Bortoleto's first crash over the course of the Brazilian race weekend. Now, looking at that, why is the chap behind him why is he the only one with DRS even? Well, Gabriel Bortoleto, you'll know that the mechanism only closes when you apply sufficient pressure to the brakes. Gabby was trying to pull an overtaking manoeuvre, and we know that these F1 cars, even in ground effect era, especially in ground effect era, are temperamental, sensitive to multiple inputs. Gabby doesn't jump on the brakes. He's trying to be the last of the late breakers into turn one, of course, and then jumps out the way of the chap in front of him. What did you think was going to happen? Of course he was going to yeet it into the bloody barrier. You've got to be kind to these cars as far as their inputs. Now, listen, let me say this. It's important, and F1 can never ever be too safe. And that Gabriel Bortoleto walks away from this unhurt is an absolute miracle. And that's always going to be the heading under which we have this conversation. But yet and still, is that a Jack Doohan type incident, Suzuka 2024? I don't think so. I think that's driver error, almost entirely. And Jolyon Palmer concurs. He says, listen, off the throttle by 30% in order to deactivate the DRS. Thank you, Max Z. You're a legend. Safak. So here's the thing. I think Gabriel Bortoleto has been brilliant all season long, but that is a rookie error. Seeing him alongside Maximilian Verstappen at the Pelas Pistas podcast makes you realise that he breathes rarefied air as far as his network of connects, of course being managed by Fernando El Plan Alonso, man from Oviedo, Asturias, not a bad peddler, two-time champion, 05, 06, and alongside Max Verstappen, foursome supposed to be a five-time champion. I would expect, therefore, better on Gabriel Bortoleto. Here's another one that I need to show you again, courtesy of our guys, the guys and girls, our friends over at F1 Reddit. This is interesting. Lance Stroll now has overtaken the one that they call Kevin Magnussen for the third most races, 186 now Grand Prix without a race victory. Of the current crop of drivers, Nico Hülkenberg is the only one who beats him between 2010 and 2025. Nico Hülkenberg, 247 Grand Prix without so much as a top step of the podium. Techie that. Very, very techie. Let me show you this, because Laurent Mekies is giving an interview and it's techier than techie things. Again, talking to Talking Bulls podcast with a legend, my guy Tomo. He said the following, asked the question about Max Verstappen in the first instance and him being 17. Was that annoying racing against one so good? Laurent Mekies says, yeah, of course it's really annoying racing against Max Verstappen. Man, who is the difference maker? It was really, really annoying, says Laurent Mekies. However, quote, you know, the simple plain truth is that when you get the luck to work with Max Verstappen, the guy is even more extraordinary outside of the car than he is inside of it. Some praise there from Laurent Mekies, considering how good Max Verstappen is when he's had his Weetabix. Mention no names, the Brazilian Grand Prix, round 21, 2025. You know, it looks stupid to say, but that's what it is. You know, you discover his level of technical sensitivity. You know, we call him the best sensor in the car. Don't tell him that, but he really is. Max Verstappen is the best sensor in the car. Now, look, we talked about this for a gazillion years now, that Max's gift is in his ability to manipulate the car in and on around the limits of adhesion. That's always been the safety net, the parameters within which Max Verstappen plays the game that is Formula One. It's delicacy of inputs, etc., etc. But he can do that because if there is an instance, let's say a snap oversteer going into turn 3, round 21, Brazilian Grand Prix, then he's quick enough as far as his reactions to handle it. Don't believe me? Well, let me show you why and how. Your exhibit A. Roll the clip.
Oh, me sacaron el lugar.
Huh. Now look, the naysayers will say that Max is of course on softs there, which would have helped him save that, correct it. But it's not his first time saving around Brazil, lest we forget 2026 and lest we forget 2016, excuse me, Interlagos. He's not bad around here, this Max Verstappen fella. Let's watch it again if you missed it for the less discerning-eyed amongst you.
Oh, me sacaron el lugar.
And through goes Piastri. And there's Max saving it. Now, of course, he was on the softer compound tyres, and that helps his cause. But yeah, and still he's got to be quick enough to save that, because if he doesn't, rest assured, he's going head first, T-bone settings into one Oscar Piastri. Let's look at the next chap and see how he fared with the water on the inside of the curbing, turn 3, round 21. Oh. And there goes the Salva. And there goes Collar. It's techier than techie things, that. And only show you guys that to evidence what Laurent Mekies is saying. The sensor, the level of feedback. You've heard me say a gazillion times that Max, when he's going over a crisp paper, the extent of his feedback would be able to tell you. He would know the make and the flavour of the crisp. That's what we're dealing with here as far as Max. Oh, and by the way, there's news on Toto, the boy who cried wolf. The sale, a material, but not majority sale, of his shares is going to go through. There wasn't many details yesterday, but the Kaisers released an article, and in it he says the following. It is known, however, that at least behind the scenes, in fact, this is the second piece, chaos chat as far as Toto, the boy who cried wolf. The case's article reads, and I quote, Mercedes CEO and team principal is seeking to sell a stake of nearly 5% to George Kurtz, founder and CEO of IT company CrowdStrike, an official sponsor of Mercedes. Kurtz will enter the Mercedes world through the holding company, the company formed by Toto Wolff, through which the Austrian manager is present and manages his shares in the Anglo-Austrian F1 team. The estimated investment is 261 million euros, bringing the team's value to an all-time record high, $6 billion US dollars, just over 5 billion euro. That's chaos, chat. Toto Wolff has hit the lottery, hasn't he? Techie, and then it gets techier than techie things about Toto Wolff. The case continues. It is known that Toto is considering behind the scenes that there are talks between Toto and Liberty Media. What? Toto's going to join Liberty Media. What are we doing here? The parent company of Formula One in the not too distant future, the American giant has recently undergone changes within its organisational structure, also taking over MotoGP and entrusting the top four-wheeled series to Stefano Domenicali until 2029. Wolff himself has made no secret in the past that over time he might take some time off from his day-to-day work at Mercedes, hence his sporadic absences in recent years, leaving first Jerome D'Ambrosio and now Bradley Lord to take his place. Who knows what happens in the future? I'd heard it spoken of that Toto could potentially take the job of Stefano Domenicali, or at least work alongside him at Liberty Media. But to see it written down, I don't know, chat. I'm not sure how I feel about that. The poacher turned gamekeeper, but Jean Todt did it before him. So I suppose there is a precedent set there. Oh, and by the way, I need to show you this. Scuderia Ferrari chaos all the way. John Elkann has said yesterday, and we went through this ad nauseum, didn't we? John Elkann said yesterday that his drivers need to talk less and drive more. Oh, the humanity. The irony was lost on the F1 community. That why doesn't John Elkann lead from the front? And Jenson Button, one-time champion 2009, has echoed those sentiments. Underneath the Sky Sports F1 post, Jenson Button said maybe John Elkann should lead by example. Touché, sir. I agree with Jenson, and there's not much that I agree with Jenson Button on, but he's nailed it here. John Elkann, if he wishes for harmony, if he talks about WEC and Ferrari's success over there, not long at the Bahrain Grand Prix, winning it, then surely John Elkann should lead for the front. He should take heed. He should understand and effect for his own advice. By saying that, how could you not expect to disenfranchise a Charles Leclerc who's driven out of his skin for the past 7 years, who's endured the ineptitude, the god tier levels of incompetence of Scuderia Ferrari, now almost ad nauseum? How could you look at Sir Lewis Hamilton and all his struggles, wrestling with the car and the circumstance, the poor working culture, realising that he's driving for a team in the red car with the yellow badge and the black prancing horse that do not know or understand even what good looks like? How could you then say that, John Elkann, with a straight face? Sometimes to be a leader, you need to understand what the team needs and tick that box, let alone going out and saying something like that is akin, surely, to sabotage. Not a good look. Did Jenson just tell John to shut up? He did indeed, Darius. Jenson is a cool commentator. Nico Rosberg is the GOAT. Don't disagree with that. I think Nico Rosberg is levels above Jenson, if I'm being honest. Unity through media releases. All disharmony, Max. That's what they should be doing. That's what they should be aspiring for, methinks. But they're nowhere near. And I don't think that bodes well. Not for Lewis, not for Charles and their prospects of keeping Charles Leclerc at the team. And definitely not for the team that they call Scuderia Ferrari. Oh, the humanity.